ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
वन्दे
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम्
गुरुपरम्पराम्
ॐ सह
ॐ
नः भवतु
सहनावतु
सह नौ
सहनौ
भुनक्तु
भुनक्तु
सह वीर्यं
वीर्यं
कर्वावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
विद्विषावहै
विद्विषावहै
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya, Hari Om. Okay, so in the last session, we had completed the sixth Karika, and we saw that over the last few sessions, we did the first six mantras, and the first six Karikas, they had an explanation of the mantras. Now, today we are on the seventh Karika. So, Agama Prakaranam, that is the first chapter of Mandukya Upanishad. The seventh Karika. We will chant. Please unmute yourself. Vibhutim prasvam tvanye
विभूतिं
विभूतिं
प्रसवन्ये
प्रसवन्ये
manyante srishti chintakaha
मन्यन्ते
मन्यन्ते
सृष्टिचिन्तकाः
सृष्टिचिन्तकाः
swapna maya sarupeti
स्वप्नमाया
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 स्वरूपेति
स्वरूपेति
सृष्टिर अन्ये विकल्पिताः.
दृष्टिरन्ये
दृष्टिरन्ये
कल्पिताः
सृष्टिरन्ये
विकल्पिताः
Okay, so now is to spend some time on the discussion of the views of other darshanas. Because in any understanding, it is necessary for us to look at the views that other schools of philosophy have and try to understand where they are wrong, how they are different from us, who is wrong, they are wrong, we are wrong. So all this is part of Vedantic study. Now, what we were discussing, we have one of the points of discussion in Vedanta is creation, Srishti, Maya. Right? What does Vedanta say about Maya? Anirvachaniyam. Any study of Maya will not give you any firm conclusion because it is mithya and therefore Vedanta dismisses Srishti. What do the other darshanas do? So some of them are referred to here. So in the next four verses, three verses, 7, 8 and 9, there are some of these views which are discussed. Very briefly, so vibhutim prasvam tvanye manyante srishti chintakaha. There are certain darshanas, philosophers, who when they analyze srishti, they consider the creation to be vibhuti, a glory of the Lord, mahima of the Lord. So vibhutim prasavam tvanye. Right? The creation is emerging as a vibhuti. And since it is a glory of the Lord, what do they say? They say Lord is Satyam, therefore the Srishti must, which is a glory. A person who is glorious, who has any attribute, if the person is real, the attribute is also real. That is the logic. Therefore, they say that since this Srishti, this creation is a glory of the Lord, is a vibhuti of the Lord, the vibhuti must be as Satyam as the Lord. And therefore, they say that Srishti is also Satyam. This is one set of philosophers. Right? Then, Srishtihi Anye Vikalpita. So, some others say that Srishtihi Anye, some others, some other philosophers. What do they say? Srishti Vikalpita. That creation is an imagination, a projection. And what is it comparable to? Swapna Maya Sarupeti. So it is something like Swapna and something like Maya. Two examples are given here. Swapna is a dream. Maya here is not the Vedantic Maya. It is not the Maya which is equivalent to Srishti. Remember that Maya, what is a magician called? He is called a Maika, right? And what does he do? He creates Maya. So it is an illusion of the magician. So he said that is why they say that this projected creation, Anyehe Srishti Vikalpitaha, the people who say that Srishti is a projection, it is a visualization, something like Swapna and Maya. Swapna is unreal, and Maya, the object materialized by the Mayavi, the magician, is also unreal, right? So that Srishti is something like Indrajal. So Indrajalaita Srishti, something like the Indrajal. That is called Maya here. We can think of Vishwamitra, who created a, a world, a Swarga, for whom?
Shanku.
For Trishanku, right? So he materialized the whole world. It was not a real world, but he materialized this. And so this particular, philosopher, he says that Ishvara therefore creates the real world just like the magician materializes things, right? And here in his commentary, Shankara gives the example of a magic show. So this is the typical magic show where a rope is thrown up, right? And the rope, once it goes up, it stays erect. It doesn't fall down. The rope stays erect. Then the magician, the Mayavi, he climbs the rope, and obviously he is not in our sight anymore because he has climbed the rope. And there's a lot of noise which indicates that the magician is fighting with all sort of invisible enemies. The enemies, they are powerful, and the magician is cut into many pieces. And what happens is that the limbs fall down one by one. The hands fall down, the legs fall down, the nose fall down. All these things fall down and they are bleeding. And what happens? After some time, you throw a black cloth over the whole thing, and when the black cloth is removed, we see that the magician is back as a whole. Okay. So, what is the understanding? The magician has never really left the stage. He's always been there. But because of all these distractions, the rope going up, the fighting, the limbs falling, what has happened? The attention of the audience has been distracted from the magician, and the magician, even though he is there, he is not seen. Right? This is the example which Shankara gives in his commentary. What is the comparison? The comparison is that Brahman is like the Mayavi, like the magician, and the bodies are like the ropes and the enemies and the limbs. So he says, similar to the rope being thrown, is the manifestation of the Sukshma, Sthula, and Karana Sharira. Who manifests? Who throws the rope? The magician. So the magician is the Mayavi, is Brahman, is Turiam. That Brahman is the sole cause for the manifestation of Sukshma, Sthula, and Karana Sharira. And similar to the Mayavi climbing the rope, he says, so Shankara's commentary, similar to the Mayavi climbing the rope, there are the three reflected consciousnesses. Which are they? What are the three reflected consciousnesses? One should not forget Tattva Bodha.
Yeah. Vyashti or Samashti level.
Names. Three RCs.
Vishwa,
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 Tejasa.
Taijasa, and
Tajasa,
Prajna.
and Pragya. Right.
On the
So similar to the Mayavi climbing the rope, that this comparison is made to the three association of the consciousness with the three bodies, which are the three RCs. The three RMs associated with the OC become the three RCs. Right. But really, he says, really speaking, other than the rope and the person who is, this is a very important point. In that magic show, there is the rope and there is the person who is climbing the rope who you think is the magician. So Shankara is saying that the rope is an illusion. The one who is climbing the rope is not the magician, he is an illusion. So he is the RC. So very nice comparison made. There are three entities right now on the stage. There is the real magician. So he calls it Paramartha Mayavi. So Paramartha Mayavi here doesn't have anything to do with Paramartha Satyam. Paramartham means the real one. So Paramartha Mayavi, he says, the real magician is there. Not only that, there is the sutra, there is the rope, and there is the person who is climbing the rope, who you think is the magician, but in reality is an illusion. So the rope is there, the climbing magician is actually the RC, and there is the real magician. And where is the real magician? Saeva Bhuvishtaha, who is very much on the platform. But he is Maya Channaha Adrashyamanaha Eva Sthitaha. He is not visible because Maya Channa. He's been the audience is being captivated by the Maya, by the magic. Their attention is distracted, and therefore the real Mayavi, the Paramartha Mayavi, Adrishyamanaha, he is not seen. He is as if he is not visible, though he is really there, but your attention has been distracted, and therefore you don't see him. Similarly, what is the comparison here? We the Jivatmas are focusing on the Maya Tattvam which we see, on the Vyakta Maya, on the entire universe you see. You're focusing on your spouse, you're focusing on your children, on your parents, on your job. The entire world is Maya. So you are focusing on that Maya. Because of that distraction of focusing on the Maya, you don't see Brahman who is right below your nose. Right? So you see, in that same way, just as you establish that the Mayavi is really on the stage, the same way that Turiam Brahman is very much established. How? As I myself. And this I myself idea, one doesn't ever know through perception. You can never come to the conclusion that you are Brahman. Who tells you that? You have to do an enquiry. When you inquiry into the Shastram, that Shastram tells you that there is a Brahman, of course, and that Brahman is you. Right? So there are people, darshanas, who say the world is like a dream. And according to them, the dream is a real one. So this is what is being said here. Some darshanas, they say that the world is projected like a dream, but the dream is actually real. And therefore, in the dream world, they say the dream world is as real as the Jagrata Avastha. These people say, these darshanas say, and they compare and say similarly, when Lord creates the world, when Ishvara creates the world, they also say, the Ishvara says, he creates the world, but these people say the world is real. We say the world is mithya. That is the difference. And Anandagiri, another commentator, says there are philosophers who compare dream to magic, Swapna to Maya, not the Vedantic Maya, but the Mayavi Maya. But the difference is that they say that the Swapna is real. Or who is that? The Vishishta Advaitin, for example, he says the Jagrata Avastha is Satyam, but he says Swapna Avastha is also Satyam. Right? Because there is a very subtle idea over here. We the Vedantins, what do we say? The Jiva projects the dream world. But the Vashishta Advaitan, he says that the Jagrata Avastha, the waking world, is also projected by Ishvara, and the dream world is also projected by Ishvara. Right? So for the Vishishta Advaitan, both creations, the waking state as well as the dream state, the waking universe as well as the dream universe, both are creations of Ishvara, both are Ishvara Srishti, and therefore both are real. But Vedantin says the Jagrana Avastha, the waking universe, is projected by Ishvara, but the dream universe is projected by the Jiva's mind. Hence, for the Vedantin, the dream state is Jiva Srishti. For the Vishishta Advaitin, the dream state is Ishvara Srishti. So this is one set of people or two sets of people. Okay, so he's showing various other ideas which darshanas have. Now we look at Karika number 8. So please unmute yourself and we will chant Karika number 8. इच्छा मात्रम प्रभो सृष्टि
इच्छामात्रं
मात्रं
प्रभो
प्रभु
सृष्टिः
इति सृष्टौ विनिश्चिताः
इति
इति
सृष्टौ
सृष्टो
विनिश्चिताः
कालात् प्रसूतिं भूतानां
कालात्
प्रसूतिं
प्रसूतिं
भूतानां
भूतानां
मन्यन्ते कालचिन्तकाः
मन्यन्ते कालचिन्तकाः.
So another set of philosophers are now being discussed. इच्छा मात्रम प्रभोः प्रभोः सृष्टिः इति सृष्टौ विनिश्चिताः. So इच्छा मात्रम प्रभुः सृष्टिः. The Prabhu, Ishvara, Bhagavan, he creates the Srishti Ichha Matram, purely by wanting the creation to be created. That is only Sankalpa, willpower alone. Why? So, Shankara says you have to understand that Ishvara is Satya Sankalpaha, the one for whom any Sankalpa, any thought can be made into a fact. Right? And what is Srishti? He says everything, like a pot. Anything is created like a pot is a Srishti. So these people say that anything which is created by Bhagavan, by pure, by Sankalpa alone. There is no other thing involved. Right? Sankalpena na atiriktam. Nothing is there apart from Sankalpa. There is no raw material. There is nothing. What is the difference between this and Vedanta?
There is an upadana karanam.
There is no upadana karanam. There is no Maya over here. Okay? Maya is the upadana karanam for us. Then there is one more group of philosophers. Kala prasutim bhutanam manyante kala chintakaha. So kala chintakaha, the person who says everything happens in time, in kala. Everything comes out of matter. Everything happens in time because of the passage of time. Right? So, Kalat Prasutim Bhutanam, the entire creation comes out of time alone. Manyante Kalachintaka. These are the people who talk about the creation occurring in time. So, this is similar to modern evolution theory. Right? There is no Ishvara involved in this. See, what he says, it comes in time. Of course, they don't ask the question, who creates time? That's a different thing. But they say everything comes out of time. This is modern, very close to modern theory of evolution. That everything evolved in time. Okay. Now we look at the next Karika. Karika number 9, we will chant. Bhogartam Shishtirityanye
भोगार्थं
भोगार्थं
सृष्टिरन्ये
सृष्टिरत्यन्ये
Kridartam iti chapare
क्रीडार्थमिति
क्रीडार्थमित्यापरे
चापरे
Devas Aisha Swabhavoyam
देवस्य
देवस्यैक्य
स्वभावोऽयम्
स्वभावोऽयम्
Kamasya Kaspraha.
आप्तकामस्य
आप्तकामस्य
का
का
स्पृहा.
स्पृहा
One more set of people. Bhogartam Srishtihi tu Anyehe. Right? It Anyehe iti Srishtihi Bhogartaha. So there are some people, Anyehe, some philosophers, who say that Srishtihi Bhogartham. is for the enjoyment. For whose enjoyment? The creator's enjoyment. So they say that Lord creates the creation for the purpose of his own enjoyment. That is one set of people. So here the key word is bhogartham or bhogaha for his enjoyment. The next set is another set of people, apare. There are other people, cha apare, chapare is cha apare. There are other people who say that you have to borrow all this from the previous line. Srishtihi kridartham iti. Who consider that Srishti is created as a krida, as a sport of Bhagavan. Right? So this is one person says for the purpose of bhoga Lord creates. The other person says that he creates it as a sport, as a lila. Right? Then the next line is Gaudapada. Devasyesha swabhavaha ayam apta kamasya kaspraha. So this is Gaudapada who says that how can these two views, that one is bhogartham and one is kridartham, the view that the Lord creates for enjoyment or for sport, how can they be true? Because apta kamasya kaspraha. Apta kama is a person who is always fulfilled. There is Purnatvam is indicated by the word apta kama. Right? Any kama it has always fulfilled. So kaspraha, what desire can there be for the one who is apta kamaha, who is always fulfilled? And therefore he says, Eshaha is this creation. Devas Yeshaha. Devaha Eshaha. Eshaha creation. This Srishti. Ayam Deva Swabhavaha. This creation is the very Swabhava of the Lord. The creation is not separate from the Lord. The creation not separate from Brahman. So here we need to look at two words, one which appears here and one which doesn't appear for the sake of clarity. What is the word here? Swabhava. Right? It is a very character, very nature. Now, there is also a word called Swarupam. When we talk about Brahman and Satchit Ananda, we say Satchit Ananda is Brahma Swarupam. Right? When we talk about Maya, we say Maya is Brahma Swabhavam. I'll repeat again, very important point. When we talk about Brahman as having a nature, intrinsic nature, what is the intrinsic nature? Sat, Chit and Ananda. So when we use the three words Sat, Chit and Ananda in connection with Brahman, that is the very Swarupam, intrinsic nature of Brahman. But when we say that Maya is a Swabhava of Brahman, it is not the intrinsic nature. It is nature, it is very much there in Brahman, but there is a very critical difference between Satchitananda and Maya. What is that critical difference? Both Swarupam and Swabhava, they apparently convey nature. But one is incidental nature, one is intrinsic nature. Which is incidental and which is intrinsic?
Maya.
Maya is incidental.
Maya is intrinsic. Therefore, Swarupam has to be understood as Paramarthika Satyam nature and Swabhava has to be understood as Vyavaharika Satyam nature. So, Paramarthika Satyam nature is intrinsic. Vyavaharika Satyam is also nature. Swabhava is also nature, but it is Vyavaharika Satyam. So, what Gaudapada is saying that to say that Ishvara created this world is not correct because the world has always been there as a part, as an intrinsic part of Ishvara, non-separatable from Ishvara. Right? So if creation is not created and has always been there, there is a question. If you say that creation is always there as an intrinsic part of the Lord, right? In Srishtikala, in the time when there is Srishti, that intrinsic part is available as Vyakta Avastha, manifest universe. But in Pralaya Kala, that same intrinsic part is still there, but as Avyaktam. In both cases, they cannot be separated from the Lord. So there is a question. Of course, by now all of you are advanced Vedantis. You will answer the question immediately, I'm sure. If Srishti is the intrinsic part of the Lord, Srishti is samsara. Does not that make the Lord a samsari? What is the answer?
Srishti is mithya finally. So it cannot make Brahman samsari.
So you need to say it in the right words. Srishti
Brahman.
has a lower order of reality. It is a vyavaharika satyam.
Vyavakharika satyam and Brahman is paramarthika.
A lower order reality cannot affect the higher order reality. Just like the tiger in your dream, which is a lower order of reality, cannot harm your physical body, which is a higher order of reality. Right?
Right.
So that is what the understanding is. Whenever you say that the Srishti is present in the Lord, and if somebody says, but Srishti is samsara only, how come that samsara is not affecting the Lord? Then you have to say, Srishti is Vyavaharika Satyam. It is a lower order of reality. It cannot affect the Lord. Therefore, the world in Mithya form has always been existing in the Lord all the time. But because of that Mithya nature of the world, because of the lower order of reality, Ishvara or Brahman cannot be affected. So with this Karika 9, the entire analysis of the first 6 mantras, not Karikas, first 6 mantras of the Upanishad has been completed in these 9 Karikas. So we have to see how it flows. There are 6 mantras and then there are 9 Karikas. Those 9 Karikas have had an analysis of the first 6 mantras. And in these first 3 mantras and the 9 Karikas, the first 3 padas of the Chatushpada Atma, the Atma which has 4 padas. Out of that padas, the first 3 padas have been discussed. So let us just recall. The first was Sthula Atma, which is there in Jagrad Avastha. The second was Sukshma Atma, which is there in Swapna Avastha. The third is Karana Atma, which is there in Sushupti Avastha. When you say Sukshma Atma, Karana Atma, Sthula Atma, focus on the word Atma. Each pada is nothing but the Atma, the consciousness principle associated with a particular Namarupa. So Atma associated with the Namarupa of Jagrada Avastha is Sthula Atma. Atma associated with Namarupa of Sukshma of Swapna Avastha is Sukshma Atma. Atma without association with Namarupa is Karana Atma in Sushupti Avastha. Right? So this we must understand carefully. Okay, so we have done this and now let us enter the 4th pada. The 4th pada is what we call the Turya Atma. So Turyam is a word which is derived from Chaturtha, 4th. So if you drop the cha, what remains?
Turya.
Turya.
And Turya you add a suffix yam and becomes Turyam. Therefore the word is Chaturtha is the same as the word Turyam. Right? Now let us chant the 7th mantra. The mantra, not the karika. Nanta prajnam na bahishprajnam.
Pratyam na bahispratyam.
No bhajata prajnam.
No
Nohayatanoyam
Prajnam na prajnam.
na
Na
pragyam
pradyam
na
pradyam
pragyam pragyam
Na prajnam na prajnam.
na
na
pragyam
pradyam
na
na
pragyam
pradyam
Adrishyam avyavaharyam.
अदृश्यम् अव्यवहार्यम्
अग्राह्यम अलक्षणम्
अग्राह्यं लक्षणम्
अग्राह्यमलक्षणम्
अचिन्त्यम अव्यपदेश्यम्
अचिन्त्यम्
अचिन्त्यम्
अव्यपदेश्यम्
अव्यपदेश्यम्
एकात्म प्रत्यय सारम्
एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम्
एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम्
प्रपंचोपशमं शान्तम्
प्रपञ्चोपशमं
प्रपञ्चोपशमं शान्तम्
शान्तम्
शिवम् अद्वैतम्
शिवम्
शिवम्
अद्वैतम्
अद्वैतम्
चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः
चतुर्थं
चतुर्थं
मन्यन्ते
मन्यते स आत्मा
आत्मा
स
सविज्ञेयः
So this is mantra number 7, which is one of the most significant mantras of this Upanishad. In fact, we can even say that it is one of the most significant mantras in the entire Upanishadic texts. All across all the Upanishads, this one mantra is the most significant. It contains everything that has to be said about Atma. Now, the rest of the chapters, this is the first chapter. We are on the seventh mantra. There are two chapters, 2, 3, and 4 also, where there are more than 200 karikas. So that only one mantra alone, those 200 karikas written by Gaudapada, they are explanations of this one mantra alone. Why is that so? Because this mantra talks about the fourth pada, Turyam Brahman. The fourth pada is Satyam. The first three padas are Mithya. By knowing a Mithya Vastu, moksha cannot be got. It is necessary to know the Vastu as Mithya. But solely because of the Mithya knowledge alone, there is no moksha. You have to have Mithya knowledge and then you have to have what is Satyam knowledge. Therefore, the three padas must be known. And the fourth pada, Turyam also must be known. Without that, there is no moksha. So in this mantra, Turya is defined. Turya Atma is defined. Right? The mantra gives the what is known as the Turya Lakshanam, the definition of Turyam. But if you have seen the mantra, the word Turyam doesn't appear there at all. It uses the word Chaturtham. That is why I explained that the word Chaturtham is basically Turyam only. It is synonymous, same meaning as the word Turyam. And the word Chaturtham actually means the fourth pada, the fourth aspect. Okay. Now, there is one important idea here which we must understand, right? Because it leads to a misconception otherwise. What was the first pada? Definition of first pada. It was the waker, the Vishwa, who was associated with Jagrata Avastha. The word here is Avastha, okay? The state, Jagrata state. What was the second pada? He was the Taijasa, the dreamer,
dreamer
associated with Swapna Avastha. Again, the word Avastha you have to focus on. The first pada, Vishwa associated with Jagrat Avastha. Second pada, Taijasa associated with Swapna Avastha. Third pada, Prajna associated with Sushupti Avastha. In all the three states, there is a state. Avastha is there. Right? So, across all these three, which we have seen so far in the 6 mantras and 9 karikas, each pada is associated with a particular state of experience, which we call avastha. Right? Avastha is what? A state of experience. So, there could be the natural conclusion that the fourth pada is also associated with a fourth state of experience. Is it not? The normal flow will be that, okay, three padas I have talked about. Three padas each has a state of experience. And therefore, the fourth pada must also have a fourth state of experience. And therefore, this is this misconception where people talk about Turya Avastha. right? This Turiya Pada, they equate to Turiya Avastha. And therefore they say that Turiam, the Brahman, will be experienced, again experienced, only in Turiya Avastha. You see the conclusion? Because of the fact that the first three padas are avasthas and can be experienced, they conclude that the fourth pada is also experienceable. And therefore they talk about samadhi and mystic states and all these things. Right? What is their logic? During Vedantic study, they say you can study about thorium, but you are in Jagrada Avastha. Where is the question of thurium being available? Because in Jagrada Avastha, only the Pratham Pada is available. The first Pada is available. You can only learn intellectually about Turya Pada. There is no question of experiencing it. Therefore, you must go to the state of experience, to meditation. And they borrow and they give words like Samadhi Avastha, Samprajnata Avastha, Sabija Sampragnata Avastha, Nirbija Samadhi, etc. etc. All these words are borrowed from Yoga Shastram, and they say you have to work for that knowing Brahman. In fact, those of you who have been in these groups for a long time, there are some people in the groups who left the groups because they could not reconcile with the idea that there is no fourth avastha, that you did not work for samadhi. Working for samadhi is not going to give you understanding of Brahman. You will never get an experience that they did not like, in spite of being told many times, and they are no longer in the groups. Right? So these people, they talk about working for the fourth avastha. But the Upanishad, remember, it doesn't mention Turi avastha at all. It talks about Jagrat, Sthanaha, Swapna Sthanaha, and Sushupti Sthanaha. If you remember the words, there is no mention of Turya Sthanaha or Chaturtha Sthanaha. Why? Because there is no such thing called a Chaturtha Avastha, called a Turya Avastha. What is Turyam? The Upanishad, the Shruti will tell us that Turyam is different from the first three padas. The first three padas are Vishwa, Tajasa, Prajna. And this mantra will say that Turyam is different from these three. At the same time, Turyam is present in through all these three also. It is different from Vishwa, but it is present in Vishwa. It is different from Tajasa, but it is present in Tajasa. It is different from Prajna, but it is present in Prajna. Therefore, wherever there is Vishwa, Tajasa or Prajna, Turyam is also available there. Which means Turyam is available coexisting with all the three avasthas. What is the difference? The avasthas may go and come. Vishwa may go and come, Tajasa may go and come, Prajna may go and come, but Turyam remains there, is available in all the three states. Right? For example, you take different products of the same material. You take, let us say, a chair, you take a table, you take a stool. In all these, what has gone and what is going and coming, the name and form. What remains, the wood remains. Therefore, you do not look for thorium outside the three avasthas. It is very much there in the three avasthas. Right? You have to appreciate gold not as a chaturtha entity, a separate one, but as being found in the chain and the ring and the bangle. Similarly, you have to appear Turya Brahman, Turya Atma, as different from the waker, but found in the waker, as different from the sleeper, but found in the sleeper, as different from the dreamer, but found in the dreamer. The common factor is I am. Aham asmi. Right? Other things like I am father, I am mother, I am child, I am businessman, I am saint, I am sadhu, I am student, I am teacher. All the other adjectives are incidental. Anything which you add as a suffix to the phrase I am is temporary. It comes and goes. But the I am, the consciousness principle, that will not come and go. That consciousness is Turiam. That consciousness is you. Any questions so far? All known ideas, but be consolidated, right? One more point. The three padas each consists of a pramata prameyam pair, the knower and the knowable, right? What was the pair in the first avastha?
Repeat the question, sorry.
Sorry? I am saying each of the padas consists of one pramata, one pramayam as a pair, the knower and the known. In the first pada, what is that pair? Wow, why is it difficult? What is pair in the first pada? The Vishwa and
Vishwa and Jagat.
Jagratavastha, right? Jagat. Vishwa Jagat is the first pair. In the, what do you call, second pada, what is the pair?
Vaishasya and Swapnavastha.
The Tajasa and Swapna Prapancha. Swapna Avastha, Swapna Prapancha. Right? And the third, similarly, third pair. So in each of these avasthas, there is a pramata, there is a pramayam, there is a world also. But Tuyam is different. Tuyam is different from Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, or Jagrata Prapancha, Swapna Prapancha, and Sushupti Prapancha also. Right? In other words, Sthula Prapancha, Sukshma Prapancha, and Karana Prapancha, this Turyam is different. Okay. So let us now look at this mantra itself. This mantra can be divided into three separate portions. The first portion is Nanta Pranyam, Na Bahif Pranyam, No Bhayata Pranyam, Na Pranyana Ghanam, Na Pranyam, Na Pranyam. That is the first portion. That first portion is pointing out what? That we'll come to the details of the words later, but here I'm simply stating that this first section of the mantram, starting from Nanta Pranyam, ending at Na Pranyam, it is telling us that Turyam is Pramatri Traya Vyatiraktam, different from these three pairs of Pramata and Prameya, which we have just discussed. Different from the three knowers obtaining in the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti Avastha. Right? So there is a Pramatra Prameyam. So the first portion is telling us that the Turyam is different from the three Pramatas available in the three states, which means different from Vishwa, Tajasa,
Jasa and
Pragya. Right? That is the first portion. The second portion is Adrishyam, Avyavaharyam, Agrahyam, Alakshanam, Achintyam, Avyapadeshyam. This is telling us that Turyam is different from the three Prameyams. The first portion tells us Turyam is different from the Vishwa, Tajasa and Pragya. This tells us Turyam is different from the three Prapanchas. That is Jagrat Prapancha, Swapna Prapancha and Susupti Prapancha. Right? So to put it in Sanskrit, the first portion tells us Turyam is Pramatra Traya Vyapiriktam. The second portion tells us Turyam is Prapancha Traya Vyapiriktam. Okay. So don't worry too much. We will come to those words individually. The third portion is Ekatma Pratyaya Saram Prapanchopashamam Shantam, Shivam Advaitam, Chaturtham, Manyante sa Atma sa Vigneyaha. Here it is saying that even it is different from the Panchatrayam and the Pramatrayam, you don't have to look elsewhere for the Turiam because it is inherent in all these three pairs. Therefore, different from the three pairs, at the same time present in the three pairs. Therefore, it is the Adhishtanam, the very substratum of the three pairs. Right? So, in English, you can say transcendental but immanent. If you want to use English, I think Sanskrit is easier here. So, when we say gold is different from bangle, chain, and ring, it actually means gold is Vilakshanam. It transcends all these three at the same time. So that's why transcendental. When you say gold is different from bangle, chain, and ring, gold is transcendental. It transcends all the three. It is different from all the three. But when you say gold is adhishthanam, present in all the three, gold is immanent. It is in and through the bangle, chain, and the ring. It is a very substratum. And who is that Turiam? That Turiam is who you are. Okay. Now we will look at the mantra in detail. Let us take the first portion. Nanta pranyam na bahihi pranyam na ubhayataf pranyam na pragyana ghanam na pranyam na apranyam. Na pranyam is na apranyam. So here the word pranyam is consciousness itself. Na bahihi pranyam. This consciousness is not turned outwards. When the consciousness is turned outwards, what is the Pramata called? Vishwa. So,
Vishwa.
na bahihi pranyam. This Turiam is not bahihi, is not Vishwa. Right? So you are not Vishwa, that is the meaning of the word na bahihi pranyam. Nanta pranyam, na antaha pranyam, not turned inwards. You are not the
Taijasa.
Taijasa. Your status as Taijasa is also not there, is mithya, is negated. Now comes something which we have not seen before. Na ubhayataf pranyam. Ubhayata here refers to a very rare state where you are neither bahihi nor antaha. In English, it means you are not completely sleeping, nor are you fully awake. Right? So I don't know how many of you experienced it. It's a very rare experience. It's an early morning state when you are vaguely aware it is morning, but your dream has not stopped. Does anybody remember such an experience?
Yes.
So it's a rare state, but Shastra
Yes.
says this is the state where you get glimpses of the future. So ESP, premonition, stuff like that happens in this state. Or for example, which I have experienced, I have misplaced something because of not paying attention. Let us say car keys. When I came back, I kept it somewhere. I just didn't know where it was. For one full day, I could not find it. Let us say. The next morning, in this particular state, suddenly you remember. Here it was there. Then you wake up and then you remember that and go back and you find the keys there only. Okay, so this is na ubhayata prajna, a state where you are not fully inwards or fully outwards. It's actually, you can call it a paranormal state. Not the normal state. It is paranormal. It may not have been experienced by everybody. Some people would. Then, na prajnana ghanam. So, prajnana ghanam is a undifferentiated mass. Prajnanam is consciousness. So undifferentiated mass of consciousness means that state of consciousness where there is no pramata or prameya. What is this state?
Sushupti.
Sushupti
Sushupti avastha,
Karana.
prajna. Prajna is being referred to. Okay. The prajna of the Sushupti avastha. So this is also being negated because it's na prajnanaganam. Prajnanaganam is prajna, therefore you are not the prajna also. So these three have been negated. Then na prajna, right? Now here the word prajna has a different interpretation. In the earlier ones we took it as consciousness. So here Shankara writes, in this part of the mantra, you have to take prajna as equal to sarvagnya. So na prajna you should read as na sarvagnya, which means what? He is not the omniscient one. He is not the all-knowing one. He is not Ishvara also. This consciousness is not Ishvara also. At the same time, na aprajnam. So again Shankara writes, aprajnam means achaitanyam pratishedaha. The word is used to negate the achaitanya. Achaitanya means jada, which is not, which is inert, right? So na prajnam means it is not jada also. But the use of this word na aprajnam is indicating that you cannot say that Turyam is jadam. Because you have said that Turyam is not Ishvara, right? You might come to the conclusion that Ishvara is very much Chetanam, conscious. Therefore, when you say na Ishvara, it means not conscious. So this mantra is added. This Turyam is not Jadam also. Right? Therefore, Turyam is not Pramata, not any of the Pramatas, neither is it Jadam. Right? So all forms of Pramata are negated, which means apramata, not a Pramata. And therefore, Turyam is Pramatra Traya Vilakshanam, different from the three Pramatas. Are we following? Any questions? Very, very important mantra. Any question you have to ask. Okay. Now we go to the second part. Adrishyam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyapadesyam. Adrishyam. It cannot be seen. So drishyam has to be taken as upalakshanam as a generalization for all the jnanendriyas. Drishyam literally means which cannot be seen by the eyes, by chakshu indriya. But here, therefore, the word adrishyam has to be taken as a generalization for it is pancha jnanendriya agocharam. Cannot be perceived or grasped by any of the five jnanendriyas. What cannot be grasped? What are we talking about?
Turyam.
Turyam.
Turyam, right? Turyam Brahman cannot be an object of perception, of grasping by any of the jnanendriyas. Okay. Agrahyam. So grahyam also means grasp. What is the difference between adrishyam and agrahyam? Grahyam means cannot be grasped by any of the pancha karmendriyas. So adrishyam is pancha jnanendriya agocharam. Agrahyam is pancha karmendriya agocharam. So cannot be an object to be grasped by any of the five indriyas, karmendriyas. Then alakshanam. So Shankara says alakshanam means alingam, cannot be inferred. What is the word lingam mean over here? Lingam is a lakshanam, and from which you can infer something. For example, you can infer fire from the smoke. And therefore smoke is a lingam, what is inferred is the fire. Such a thing is not possible in the case of Turyam. Why? Because Turyam is not available for the sense organs itself. Right? Where is the question of inference? And if the Turyam therefore is not available for sense organs to perceive, nor for the mind to infer, What is the natural consequence? That Turyam is achintyam. It cannot be conceived of by the mind. It cannot be meditated upon in the mind. It cannot be an object for meditation. It's a very important idea. Right? You cannot meditate upon Brahman. Why? Where did you see this earlier? Nedam yadidam upasate. What does it mean? First of all, where did it come?
Keno Upanishad.
Kena Upanishad. What did it mean? Whatever you meditate upon, that is not Brahman. Right?
It is because of whom you can do all that.
Because of?
It is because of Brahman that you can see, you can think, you can do all that. But it is not.
I would like it to, that's a good description, but I would like it to go one step beyond. What is one step beyond?
It is me.
Yes, it is you. How can you do that meditation? Okay. And therefore only Avyapadeshyam. Avyapadeshyam means beyond padas, beyond descriptions. You cannot use words to describe. So this is being said over here, okay? You cannot use words to describe. And yet what are we doing? We are using only words to describe Turiya. So somebody said very nicely, Vedanta means describing what cannot be described. And that is the very,
Yes.
very, what they call, essence of the Guru Shishya Parampara. Communicating what cannot be communicated. And that is what is called the speciality of the Guru Shishya Parampara. You communicate something which is normally not communicable through words. Okay. Because of all this, what is the problem? Avyavaharyam. So not available for Vyavahara. Not available for any transactions. Why? Because all transactions require Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas or mind. Mental transactions in the form of thoughts. Verbal transactions, form of words, descriptions. Jnanendriya transactions in the form of perception. Karmendriya transactions in the form of handling of things or touching things. And if Turyam is not available for all these three, Jnanendriyam, Karmendriyam, Vak and Manas, it means Avya Vaharyam, beyond any transaction at all. That is why we say Brahman doesn't fall within time and space. Because whatever is within time and space alone is a object for transaction. Since it is not available for Pratyaksham, Anumanam and Shabda Pramanam, Turyam is not Prameya. The conclusion is, all these arguments are what? To say that Pratyaksha Pramanam cannot catch hold of Brahman. Anumanam cannot catch hold of Brahman. Shabda Pramanam, words, cannot describe Brahman. These are the three ways in which you describe an object. And therefore, since you can't describe, it's not a Prameyam at all. It's not available to our Pramata. Turyam, in the first part, we said Turyam is not available as a Pramata. Now we are saying Turyam is not available as a Prameyam. With this, the second part of the seventh mantra is over. With this, we'll stop here. In the next class, we will do the third and the last part of the seventh mantra. Any questions? I will
No,
again.
sir, this is
Yeah.
like the-
Please go ahead, Vinita.
No, Vyavaharika, little. This is like the Mundaka verse. Adreshyam, Agrahyam,
The description
Avarnyam,
is the same, but it is much
Yeah.
more deep, as we'll see when
Yes.
we come to the third
Yes.
part.
Definitely.
The third part is much more, actually the description of Brahman. Right now we have said what it is.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Art.
Okay, so with this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Tat Sat. Namaः Shivaya. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you, sir.
Om.